Well, I've been thinking about what content I should put in my video for today and for y'all, and I've thought that there was a time when I saw something happen in front of my house and I didn't understand it, and I think I blocked most of it out. But there was this. Well, first of all, the reason I wanted to tell you this, it's kind of gruesome, but at the same time, I still remember the guy's name who disappeared. And so many people are saying I don't have names of these people I claim disappeared. Some people might not want that to be made public, but of course he can't say anything about it. And I think his mom is already passed anyway. But um, his name was Larry Pound. He was, mentally challenged. He was overweight, but he would walk about a mile from his house, past my house, and down to the dairy at the end of the road in Florida, in Tampa, Florida. And he would work there at the dairy. And the joke among the guys in the neighborhood was, ask Larry how much money he makes working at the dairy. And he would always say, in his own little childish fashion, the guy was like 30 or 40, and he talked like a 12-year-old, and he would say 50 cent and a cold drink. Actually, talk more like a 3 or 4-year-old. But he, so we would, when he'd walk by, he was such a nice guy. When he'd walk by, everybody would wave at him. He was friends with everybody. And one day, I seen him coming walking down the road, and I just happened to be walking up from the back of the property that my parents had where I lived. I'm going to say at the time I was probably 17 to 19 years old. And I see Larry coming down the road, and here comes this brown Valiant, and it stops a little bit in front of him. I mean, Frank did this on purpose. He stopped right where he knew I would get to see what was going on. And when all my life I just thought something happened weird, because he got in the car and said it hurt, and they told him to go to sleep or something, and he laid back and they drove off. And I asked people in the neighborhood about him, and they said no one could find him. He just disappeared. And I told the story, and they didn't call the police, I don't think, or anything. They just didn't know where he went. And there's a pond back there where a guy showed up drowned, and they couldn't figure out what happened to him. And I'm pretty sure these guys were staying back there in the woods, because we had a little place we would camp, and they stole some of our firewood, and they woke me up trying to get into our little tent thing there. And I started carrying a gun when we would go out there to camp. Now, I think Larry Pound is probably buried in the sand dunes around that sinkhole, is what we call them in Florida, because those places where the ground would just sink down into a water table, and then the water would come up. It was one of the few places and the few sinkholes that I knew about that I would not get in and go swimming, because the water was so black you couldn't see anything, and I was just sure there was an alligator in there. It was a pretty good sized little pond, lake, really, a small lake. But anyway, let's get back to Larry Pound. He's walking down the street. This brown Valiant pulls up beside of him, and in all of the cases where something happened, where these guys pulled a vehicle into whatever they were doing in Florida, it was usually a brown Valiant. My mom had a Valiant. They were very easy to drive. They were very easy to hotwire. So these guys, I guess they were easy to steal. That's what they would look for, to steal. And they would be driving around with a Valiant that didn't have any license plates on it. How they never got caught, I'll never know. But then again, they talk their way out of stuff real easy. Now, what happened was, I'm looking out here, this car pulls up. I heard him tell Larry, hey, you need a lift or a ride or something? And Larry goes, I don't know what he said, but then they said, where are you going? And he goes, down to the dairy, and goes, come on, we're going down there, we'll take you down there. And he goes, oh, okay. And he went to get in the car on the opposite side of where I was at. And, like I'm over here looking and he's over there. And they told him, no, I'll go around and get in the other door. And he went around and he got in the door on my side, so I saw him get in. And he's sitting beside a John Anglin. Clarence is driving, and Frank is in the driver's seat. John leans over. I see him move like that. and and Larry goes, ah, and Frank, the smart ass that he was, said, oh, you don't like that? And he goes, poor old Larry with his little bitty mind, he goes, it hurts. I think they stabbed him in the side. And all of a sudden I saw John's hand just went like that. I mean, it was fast, and from a distance I couldn't tell what happened. But I saw Larry go like this and grab his throat. It was really gruesome now that I think about what was going on. I thought John maybe went like that and he was grabbing it because it hurt. And then I heard Frank say, just lay back, it'll stop hurting in a second. And he laid back like that. And, you know, he was passing out and laying back anyway because he was dying, bleeding to death and couldn't breathe. And they drove off. And, you know, I talked to several people in the neighborhood about seeing him get in the car with 3 guys, and they had mentioned that some other people in the neighborhood had seen him get in the car with these guys. And, you know, after that, it was just like nobody knew whatever happened to Larry Pound. And he's another guy that Frank took credit for in Mexico City when he was talking to me about, you know, all of these friends of mine that he took to be his slaves in hell. Now, the kid that drowned it up there in that lake was really strange because no one had ever drowned it in that lake, and there's kids that go down there in groups to swim. Usually I was with them, but not this lake. I wasn't getting in that water. Maybe I would have with a bunch of a group of other guys, but you know, knowing that it would probably scare the alligators off. In the old days, alligators were scared of people. They're not anymore because people feed them all the time. That's why there's signs everywhere, don't feed the alligators, all over Florida, but people do it anyway. And then the alligators get brave and they'll come up to you, and then when you don't feed them, they're going to eat you. Anyway, so and that lake back there, I forgot what I was going to tell you about it, but I think there's some bodies buried around that lake in those dunes around it. And see, I got to come up with some more content for tomorrow. One subscriber has asked me to re-explain the time that these guys attacked me again at that Winn-Dixie store, because there's more than one attack, and they tried to get my mom, and they wanted her to get out the keys to the car, and she acted like she couldn't find them, and she was all scared and everything. And I went over there and got them to chase me so that she could get into the store. I might tell you that tomorrow. So have a good day, and on goes the Zodiac Killer. I got a million stories. I just keep thinking of times that weird things happen in a car with 3 people in it drove up, and someone disappeared from that site who had just spoken to me, or sometimes just smiled at me or waved or whatever. Have a good one.